Do you need an attack decay envelope generator to modify your control voltages? Then you need Tides. Do you need an attack release envelope generator? Then you need Tides. Do you need an LFO which can provide a range of waveforms with speeds as slow as 1 cycle every 20 minutes, or high enough to use as an audio range oscillator? Then you need Tides. Would you like to freeze an LFO waveform at any point? Then you need Tides. And if that's not enough functionality in one module, would you like to switch modes and turn it into a wavetable synthesis oscillator? Then you need Tides. And would you like to do all of this within VCV Rack? Then you need the Tidal Modulator. Well, hello and welcome to Modular Curiosity, episode 21, where we're listening to the tide and occasionally maybe some whale songs. Yes, this is the Tidal Modulator, the VCV Rack version of Mutable Instruments Tides. This can do an awful lot of cool stuff. As I said, it is an LFO, is an attack decay envelope generator, it's an attack release envelope generator. It can be an oscillator, a wavetable oscillator. It could be a waveform oscillator. We could change the slope and the shape of any of our LFOs. We can change the smoothness. There's all kinds of cool things that you can do with this. So let's start playing with that. What I've got going on right now is I'm using this mode switch. Now the mode switch, you can see it has LEDs, and even though it says green here, it's kind of blue over here. So this is attack decay mode. When it's off, it's cycle mode. You can hear we're cycling up and down. When it's red, it's attack release mode. So right now I'm going to use it as an LFO, so I'm going to leave it off. Now over here, green, we can sort of see as slow or low mode, meaning this is the slowest LFO we have. Off would be medium. Red is high. And right now I'm just feeding it to a noise source into a filter, so we're not really hearing anything. When I put that in an oscillator in a moment, you're going to hear this. But this low frequency can go as low apparently as low as 1 cycle every 20 minutes. It doesn't feel quite that slow to me. There must be something else going on here with, to create that super slow frequency. But you can hear how I'm filtering, or that is I'm modulating the cutoff frequency of the filter over here to create these sort of wave sounds. And by the way, the whale sounds are simply playing with the resonance. And that's going through the Blamsoft XFX reverb, which is a paid module that I'm going to be doing a little review of it later on of the Blamsoft modules. But right now I'm just trying it out to see how I like the sound of it. It is a very nice sounding reverb. So back to the Tidal Modulator. Let's try putting this into an oscillator to see how it sounds and see if we get a better example of what these modes are. Okay, so here I've set the Tidal Modulator output, the uni output, into an oscillator. And as we can hear with the issue with most LFOs is that it goes way too high for our ears. So I'm going to use a VCA to sort of turn it down. And here we can sort of get a better view of the low, medium, and high speed. So this is the low speed. and we go to high speed, we actually modulate it into audio range. It's weird that the frequency is going down, but what's happening is I'm using the even VCO output with a lot of even harmonics, and we're getting just this really interesting kind of sound out of that. Now realize all we're doing is modifying the pitch of our oscillator. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn down the even VCO and have just in fact, let's do, just a sawtooth wave. And if we change the slope, we can see how we're actually changing the slope of the LFO, which in the audio range can actually change the tone. But in the non-audio range, you can see basically what we're doing is we're having a sawtooth wave that descends, a sawtooth wave that ascends. But we could also play with the shape. What are the slopes of each side of that? So here we have a triangle wave, right? You hear me say I want to rise and fall exponentially, so we get that interesting little slope. Here I want to rise exponentially and slow or fall kind of linearly. So here we're basically doing a sine wave on this. So see, we can completely control the shape of this LFO. How about smoothness? Okay, this is going to be kind of cool. Smoothness. So if we smooth it out, there we go, we have a nice smooth sine wave. We bring it to here, it becomes more triangular. And then we start folding it. Which means if we move this up into audio range, we're going to get really interesting harmonics because we're doing wave folding with the audio. That is just so cool. And let's smooth it out. Now it's going to be super slow. So I guess that's how we get that 20-minute cycle, by bringing the smoothness all the way down and running a really low frequency. That's just cool. But what if we wanted to use it as an envelope generator instead of an LFO? So we can see that for LFOs we can create triangle waves, we can create sine waves, we can create wave folded waves, we can change the slope from sawtooth to reverse sawtooth, we can change the exponential level. We have an awful lot of control over the LFO shape here. And all we've done so far is use the middle mode. So now let's go to the green mode. Now, the green mode is attack decay. So let me set something up here that'll show the attack decay. Okay, so here I have an LFO sending a square wave, and we can see in the square wave, that's the sort of pinkish purple wave. And notice as the square wave goes high, let me see if I can freeze this. Right there, as the square wave went high, it takes a little bit of time for the attack to come up because we've told it to use this exponential shape. And notice how this shape matches this. Now, what if I said, no, let's just do a triangle wave? So basically, when the gate starts, it's going to ramp up and hold at the peak until the gate drops. And when the gate drops, it's going to ramp down. Now I can have a very quick release by putting the exponential on the right side, on the release side. And how about the speed of that attack and release? See, we're using our frequency knob to decide how quickly is this shape going to follow our gate. If I slow it way down, it's going to, you can see it's going to really slowly, in fact, it's so slow that the attack is longer than the gate. Now you can see I have it set so as soon as the release hits, the gate release, it's going to start its release process. And of course, we can change the shape. And we can change the smoothness. We can even change the slope. Which means you can have incredibly complex LFOs that are running in time to a pulse. So one of the consistent questions I see on the VCV Rack official users group is, how do I time my VCOs to a beat? Well, this is one of the ways you can do it, and look at all the control you can have over what that waveform is. Okay, I've changed my patch a little bit, and all I've done is I've added this great big button, and I've added it to the freeze input. Now what this is going to do is, no matter where the LFO output is, the moment I give it a trigger and basically hold it here, it's going to stop this blue line. It's going to stop it wherever it happens to be. So it's just an interesting little effect that we can do, that we can stop it at any point. Let's make a really complex waveform and kind of slow it down. So now let's look at attack release mode, which is red. So notice that as the gate goes high, the attack happens and then it releases. But it releases as soon as the attack is done. That's the red mode. If I go to the green mode, it will release when the gate ends. See, it doesn't drop until the gate is done. But if I go to red mode, it'll attack for as long as the attack happens and then immediately go into the release. Now we can get some interesting effects by changing the frequency so the frequency of the attack and release don't match the frequency of the gate. What if it's longer than the gate? What if it's much shorter than the gate? And what if we start playing with the smoothness? And again, it's synchronized to the trigger, so you can synchronize your LFOs to an external clock. And at any point, we can freeze it. Okay, so we've talked about the three different modes. We've talked about attack decay in the green mode, cycle in the black mode, attack release in the red mode. We've talked about the low, medium, and high cycle modes. But what about these outputs? Instead of showing my gate on the output, I want to show you the bi-level output. And let's give something a little bit more straightforward. Here we go. And now I'll bring the volume up so we can hear what's going on. So notice as the blue line, which is our uni direction, it goes up, it comes back down to 0, it goes back, it comes up to 0, down to 0, and back up and back out, down, and so forth. The bidirectional, when it hits 0, it keeps going. It goes to a negative number and then crosses back up. Which means you can get some really interesting different patterns out of the same module. Let's just do that. Let's just go ahead and put this voltage control to the bi-level output. Go to here. And just for fun, I'm going to try putting that through a quantizer, see if I can get a melody. And just for fun, I'm going to throw a sequence and merge it. Okay, that's a little silly. But, I mean, we've still not even gone into the special modes of tides, and look at all the cool stuff it can do. But what if we start using this as an oscillator? Let's try that. Okay, so what I have here is the Tidal Modulator in normal mode, initialized. And I'm feeding a voltage control, voltage into the voltage octave to play with it as if it's an oscillator. But what if it actually was an oscillator? What if we go to sheep mode? And now it really is an oscillator. So now notice that we have bank and range and row and column as opposed to the original buttons, the shape, the slope, the speed, and so on. Well, what happens is that bank A, which would be green, is additive harmonics. Bank B is kind of a pulse width modulation sound. Bank C is the Braid's WMAP wavetable. Now all of these are wavetables, which brings us to row and column. What that actually means is imagine, say, that this, instead of being a sequencer, that this square was a chart of waveforms. And so we would consider rows going this way. As we went up in this direction, we were increasing the rows. As we moved our cursor this way, we're increasing the columns. So if I'm all the way here, all the way here, I'm at this point of the wavetable. As I move my row button up, I would be like moving the cursor up through the wavetable. If I move my column over, it would be like moving this way through the wavetable, which means that we can modulate this. And go through different areas of the wavetable, creating different sounds. And as we use our banks, we could use the different wavetable itself, the original green, the pulse width modulation. Boy, that sure sounds like that needs to be modulated, huh? How about that? And if we go to the C bank, it's the Braid's WMAP wavetable. Now this is one that, even though it sounds cool being modulated, I happen to know that in the WMAP there's some really cool organ sounds, if I can find it. There we go. Just some cool sounds. Now, there is still more to do with this. For example, if we go back to normal mode, the high tide, the low tide, that's much like the rampage, where there's a control voltage that goes high or low depending on whether your tide is currently rising or lowering. So if you remember from the Bafako rampage, basically on rise we had an output, on fall we had an output. That's what high and low does. Levels, really get into this. Go ahead, look at the Audible Instruments manual, play around with this, because this thing is amazing. And just for fun, I think I'm gonna put some tides back in. And maybe some whale songs. Hey folks, that's it for this episode. That's a quick look. Can you believe I call that quick? Yeah, that's a quick look at Tides, the Tidal Modulator. It's an LFO. It's an LFO like none you've played with before. It can be an oscillator. It could be a wavetable oscillator. It could be so much. Play with this guy. This is going to become your new best friend. I'm really enjoying messing around with this. It's a lot of fun. All right, that's it for me. Remember, if you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. That does help me out. And as always, stay curious.